Okay, picture a classroom, any classroom. Now, be honest, how many of those students are really, truly leaning in, totally captivated, and how many are just kind of there? You know? We are swimming in information, but getting someone to genuinely engage, that can feel like a lost art. So the big question is, how do we fix that? We're going to dive into the science of what actually grabs a student's attention and, more importantly, their heart.
This quote from Theodore Roosevelt, it just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? Before we can teach anyone anything, we have to connect with them. It's such a powerful reminder that learning isn't just about downloading data into a brain. It's built on a foundation of real human connection.
So this is the central puzzle we really need to solve. If we know that connection is the secret sauce, then why are so many classrooms still filled with students who are just checked out? What are we missing here? What's the disconnect between what we know works and what's actually happening?
Well, here's the thing. The problem isn't that students have somehow lost their curiosity. They haven't. The problem is that sometimes the learning environment itself can basically starve that curiosity. See, when a student's core psychological needs aren't being met, their natural built-in drive to learn just, it shuts down.
Just try to put yourself in a student's shoes for a second. When learning becomes all about these external pressures, grades, deadlines, just trying to please the teacher, all the joy just evaporates. And it creates this vicious cycle where students feel controlled, which leads to anxiety or just plain boredom. And then our response is often to add more control, and that innate love of learning just gets buried deeper and deeper.
So how in the world do we break that cycle? Well, the answer lies in this really powerful framework called self-determination theory, or SDT for short. It's like a new lens that helps us understand the engine of real motivation by focusing on 3 universal psychological needs. If you get these 3 things right, engagement isn't something you have to force, it just happens.
Okay, so the first big one is autonomy. This is simply the need to feel like you're in the driver's seat of your own life. It's not about chaos or total freedom, but about feeling like your actions come from you, from a place of personal choice, not because you're being forced or coerced. And you can see how this plays out right here. Supporting autonomy isn't about giving up control of the classroom. It's all about how you frame things. Just offering a choice between 2 different essay topics, or even just explaining the why behind an assignment, that can be completely transformative. That simple shift from "you must do this" to "hey, I encourage you to consider this," that changes everything.
All right, next up we have competence. This is a fundamental human need, to feel like you're good at stuff, that you're effective. We all have this desire to feel like we can handle the challenges in front of us and actually get better at things, to feel that sense of mastery.
Now, the sweet spot for this is what psychologists call optimal challenge. You don't want it to be so easy that it's boring, but not so hard that it's just overwhelming. And the real key to hitting that sweet spot, it's clear, constructive feedback. Feedback that shows a clear path forward. It's all about building students up, not just tearing them down.
And finally, the one we all know deep down in our bones, relatedness. This is our basic need to connect, to care for other people and feel cared for in return, to feel like we belong. We're social animals, right? And at its core, learning is a deeply social act.
And this brings us right back to that Roosevelt quote. When students feel that their teacher genuinely likes them, respects them, and values them as actual human beings, not just a number in a grade book, they are so much more likely to engage with what you're trying to teach.
Okay, so let's just put this all together for a second. What's so interesting here is how these 3 needs really work as a team. You can't just focus on one and ignore the others. A student who feels competent but has 0 autonomy is just going to feel controlled. A student with lots of autonomy but no relatedness, they're going to feel isolated and lonely. Real lasting motivation only happens when all 3, autonomy, competence, and relatedness, are supported together, in harmony.
All right, so that's the why. Now for the fun part, the how. Let's get practical. What does all this theory actually look and feel like inside a real classroom?
I think this is the single biggest mental shift we have to make. We have to move away from being the sage on the stage, the all-knowing expert who just lectures at people, and become the guide on the side. In this new model, the teacher's job isn't just to give information, it's to design experiences and ask great questions that empower students to discover it for themselves.
The flipped classroom is a perfect example of this in action. Think about it. By moving the lecture part outside of class, you're supporting autonomy. Students can learn at their own pace.
Then, your precious class time becomes this active workshop for building competence through problem-solving and collaboration, with the instructor right there to guide them. It's brilliant.
And of course, we absolutely cannot forget relatedness. Building a community doesn't have to be some huge, monumental effort. It's so often in the small things: greeting students by name at the door, finding ways to connect the stuff you're teaching to their actual lives, using a simple buddy system. These little things create such a powerful sense of belonging and make the classroom a safe place to take risks and to learn. But engagement isn't just about teaching strategies. We really have to look at the whole student, their entire learning ecosystem. Because let's face it, our brains are a part of our bodies, and our bodies exist in a physical world. So let's look at the biological foundation of what makes a mind ready to learn. Just look at this number for a second, a 17.5% increase in math scores. So what's the secret? What's the groundbreaking new teaching method? It's eating breakfast. That's it. It's such a powerful, almost shocking reminder that the brain is a biological organ, and it needs the right fuel to do its job. And it's not just about what we put in our bodies. Look at this, grades up to 25% higher. And the only variable? Just having natural light in the classroom. Our physical environment has this direct and profound impact on our ability to focus, to learn, and to remember.
And here it is, the ultimate mythbuster for that all-nighter culture. Sleep is not a luxury. It's not passive downtime. It is an active, absolutely critical phase of learning. It's when your brain is literally working to consolidate memories, transferring them from fragile short-term storage to durable, long-term storage. Without enough sleep, a lot of what you studied just won't stick. Period.
So with all this in mind, what's your next step? Where do you go from here? So it really all comes together right here. The goal is to intentionally design learning experiences that support those three core needs. And that means flipping the script on your own role, becoming more of a guide. And it means respecting the entire ecosystem, from what a student eats to how much they sleep. But if you remember just one thing, let it be this: it all starts and it all ends with genuine human connection. And that leaves us with one final thought to take with you. As you think about your own world, whether you're a teacher or a student, which of these three needs, autonomy, competence, or relatedness, do you think is the most overlooked? And maybe more importantly, what's just one small, simple thing you could do tomorrow to start supporting it?